In this video, you'll learn all about needle size to use for TRT and the zero waste technique.
So hopefully that'll save you guys some testosterone.
Welcome to this channel. I am Dr. Steven de Vos, the lifting dermatologist, and this is my partner Danny Bossa. If you want to learn more about the most cutting-edge science-based information in the world of hormone optimization, please like and subscribe. I also invite you to join my other YouTube channel, The Lifting Dermatologist. The link you can find in the description of this video. Welcome to the video, everyone. Today, again, a topic between Danny and myself. Welcome, Danny. How are you?
Doing great, Steven. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. So today, Danny is going to demonstrate and talk about a zero waste technique for injections of testosterone and also what needle size to use for it. So go ahead, Danny.
Cool. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. So in our Facebook group, TRT and Hormone Optimization, it's the same name as the YouTube channel. We got all kinds of different people coming in saying, you know, this is my situation, or this is what my doc told me to do, or this is what my friends told me to do, or this is what I saw online. Steven and I also get a lot of emails and private messages from guys. And lately there's been a bunch of people that have been giving us some surprising reports, I guess, from their doctors in regards to the type of needles that the doctors are recommending. I'm gonna show you a little example. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the fact that there's different sizes of needles, there are a number of different sizes, and there are a number of different lengths. So you could have a very, very small needle, like maybe a 1/2 inch, and they can go into like 2 or 2.5, 3 inches in length. And then the thickness of the needle itself, you can have extremely tiny little needles that use like for insulin needles, and you can have very, very large ones. I'm going to show you an example of one needle in particular here. So this here is an 18 gauge, 1.5 inch needle. Okay, so you can see it in relation to my finger. That's pretty big. I would not want to inject myself with that, as manly as I can try to pretend to be on this channel. There's no way I'm sticking this in me. Yet, there are guys that have been mentioning that their doctors are giving them 18 or 20 gauge needles at 1.5 inches, sometimes even 2 inches in length. And guys, you do not need to be injecting yourself with this at all. One guy said, I'm injecting myself in the leg and I almost feel like it's coming out on the other side, okay? You do not need these. The only reason I do have a needle like this is I find it makes it very, very easy and quick for me to draw the oil from the vial. When I'm using a smaller needle, I find it takes me a very, very, very long time to draw the oil. So what I'll do is I'll get syringes that are like this, where the top can come off, and I can use a variety of different sizes needles. So I'll use something like this. This one happens to be 1.5 inches, but usually I use 1 inch, and I'll use this to draw. And that's more than enough. In regards to injecting, I'm going to show you 3 other types of needles you can use. This is a 25, and this is the needle that actually comes with this syringe. This is a 25 5/8. And as you can see in relation to my finger, there is a huge difference in size from this compared to the other thing I just showed you. Okay. I've been doing intramuscular injections lately, and I've been using this, which I feel is plenty. Now, you can use even smaller than that. I'm going to put this cap back on, take this off. You can go to 27s. The higher the number goes, by the way, the smaller the needle gets, this needle size gets. So this is now a 27 gauge. Again, in relation to my finger, you could see it's much smaller. So this is obviously will have, you know, potentially less discomfort than the 25, and this is only a 1/2 inch versus the 25 is a 5/8. But because it's smaller and because the oil is thick, I have to put quite a bit of pressure on the plunger to press the oil through because it's going out such a small opening. Okay. And now the smallest one that you can pretty much use, I'll take this guy off, is, I would say, a 30 gauge. So this is a 30 gauge 1/2 inch. As you can see, this is really, really, really tiny. You can inject yourself with this too, especially if you're doing sub-Q, especially if you're doing daily sub-Q, where you're only injecting maybe, you know, 0.1 ml or 0.2 or even 0.31 ml, this could work. But again, you're going to be putting quite a bit of pressure on the plunger to get all that oil through the needle. So if you're the type that your needle, you have an aversion to needles like I did when I started, this is what I started using and it was fine. Just again, it takes a long time to inject. Then I got used to the needles and I started going to the 27s. So 27s are a little bit bigger, maybe a little smidgen more discomfort, but really not that much, but it's easier to press the oil through. 25s, like I was showing you before, I find it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's quite easy to push the oil through this. It really doesn't take long at all, and it's not all that big. If you have doctors that are giving you big, huge harpoons like this, like I was showing you before, okay? No, you do not need, don't inject yourself with something like that. You're basically taking a deep tissue sample every time you're gonna jab this inside you. It's crazy, all right? Ask your doc for 25 gauge, anything between 25 to 25 to 30 if you're doing sub-Q, 25 to 27 are fine. I really do not see the need to use less than 25. If you're doing anything bigger than a 25, it's maybe because you're on a steroid cycle and you're injecting like, you know, an entire syringe or 2 syringes worth a day, and you don't have, you know, 60 seconds of time available for every single injection, then yeah, you can use a larger size needle, but 25 gauge, guys, is more than sufficient. So no need for any crazy amount of damage. I'll say bye to my son, he's leaving. So hope that makes that clear. I do want to show you guys something, and we've done this in a video before, but it was part of a much longer video. So I've been sending this video to a number of people that asked the question, and I always queue it up to the relevant bit. So I thought, let's make a fast video about the relevant part. And the topic is basically how to draw oil into the syringe and then inject and literally have no waste. That meaning my syringe is completely empty when I'm done. You guys have no idea, or not all you guys, but a lot of you guys have no idea how much waste you can potentially wind up in your syringe, in the actual needle if you do an injection. So I'm going to demonstrate. So take this off here. Actually, I'll use this to draw just for fun. What I did is I took from my baby son, he's got this little vial here with a little happy face on it. Being Italian, I filled it up with red wine vinegar. Italians use a lot of red wine vinegar. So this way, when I draw the liquid into the syringe, you'll be able to see the actual liquid, okay? So I'm gonna pretend that I'm drawing, well, I'm not gonna pretend, I'm actually doing it, right? We're gonna assume that you're injecting 0.5 ml today. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw 0.5 ml into this using this red wine vinegar. So just give me one quick sec. I'm gonna draw it in there. Okay, it's a little different than injecting regular oil, but anyway. So I'm gonna show you right here that I've drawn, try to let this focus as best as I can, but you're gonna see that my plunger is at the number 5, or not my plunger, but the little rubber stopper is at number 5. Or 0.5. So I've imagined I had my syringe in the vial, and I've basically pulled all the way out to number 5. Now you're going to say to yourself, okay, well, if I inject this much, I'm injecting 0.5 ml. But am I? The thing is that you have to understand that past this point, all the way up to the tip of the needle, there's going to be oil, or in this case, red wine vinegar. If I was to pull back and draw what was in the needle into my syringe here, you're going to see that I've now added an extra 0.06 ml of oil or vinegar or whatever into my syringe. So if I'm going to bring this down all the way now, let's say if I go to number 7, you're going to see that I wind up with 7.6 or 0.76 ml in here. So you need to take into account the fact that your not only drawing into the syringe, but that there's actually going to be oil here, okay? So here's the way I do it. I've already demonstrated that this here, in my case, this needle I'm using, adds an extra 0.06 ml to whatever I'm drawing, okay? So I take that into account. So if I wanted to inject, for example, 0.5, I have to subtract the amount that I know will be in my needle, which means I'm only gonna bring my rubber stopper down to 0.44, because once I've added the 0.06 from the needle, I wind up with my 0.5, which is what I wanted to begin with. And I hope I'm making that clear. So let's say now that you've figured out how much you need to draw, again, it's going to vary depending on what needle you use. Obviously, if you're going to draw with a tiny, tiny little needle, there won't be 0.06 ml in this needle. There might only be 0.03 ml in this needle, but there is going to be some. So you're going to figure out, okay, with the type of needle that I have, if I draw down to, let's say, 0.5, and now I remove my vial and I suck out what was part of the needle into the syringe, how much am I left with? Then you can figure out exactly how much you're supposed to draw while you're in the vial. So now let's say you've measured, in this case we said we want to inject 0.5 ml. How do I go about injecting exactly the 0.5 ml into yourself without having any waste? Because obviously, if I just inject this amount into me, there's going to be waste left in the needle, right? So we've already established that this part here contains 0.06, and I don't want to waste that on every single injection. I want to inject all the oil into me and not have any waste, because that 0.06 is going to add up, especially if you're doing daily shots. It's going to add up quite fast. So the question is what can I do to ensure that I get every single drop of this oil? And it's actually quite easy. When you're drawing, leave about 0.1 ml of air at the top of the syringe. So I'm going to show you how this looks. Now imagine again, this is oil, and I know it's red wine vinegar, but you can see that this would be my oil. And now I have a space up here. I'm going to press it up so that I have 0.1 ml of air, right? So what do? Is I turn this guy upside down. And it's funny how this is a much faster process with, okay, as you can see, the air bubbles going up, going up, going up. You can see now the air bubble is at the top, right? This, we're gonna pretend this is oil, and then we have the air bubble at the top. Now, if I was to inject this into me, well, what happens? I'm gonna squeeze it in here just for the sake of example. That air that is in between the oil and the rubber is going to aid in pushing out every single drop of oil. Okay, so now if I was to draw back on this syringe, you're going to see it's empty. There's nothing in it. It's completely dry, meaning there's no waste, meaning I've injected every single drop that was in here into me. Okay, so this is something that's really great especially if you're doing daily shots. If you're doing weekly shots, maybe it's not the end of the world, but if you're doing daily shots, you wouldn't believe how much waste there actually is. Some of you guys are going to say, well, that sounds like, you're injecting air into you. Isn't that dangerous? Because we see in the movies, a guy is, is lying in the hospital bed and they come and inject air. Like, no, if you're injecting it into your body fat, you're injecting it directly into the muscle, to have a little bit of air like that is a non-issue. I've been doing that pretty much now for the last 4 years. It never causes an issue. You'll even notice that when you're going to press down on the plunger, once the rubber stopper has gone all the way through and the air gets pushed through the needle, you're actually going to hear like the air is pushing the oil through. So I hope that was a half decent explanation, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. So again, just to quickly go over it, when you're drawing, and if you draw to number 5, if you've got the vial on while you're drawing, you're going to figure how much oil do I have in the tip. You have to add that on. So really, if you pulled it all in, you would have, in this case, 5.6. You don't want 5.6, you only wanted 5. So what would you have done? You would have subtracted the 0.6, And basically, I would have, in this case, drawn to 4.4, let's say, okay? Once I would have removed my vial, once I pulled the plunger out, I would have wound up with exactly 0.5 ml, which is what I wanted, right? Suck in a little bit of air so that you have 0.1 ml of air at the top. Turn your syringe upside down so that the air goes to the top over here. You can always just give it a little flick with your finger to get that air bubble at the top. And once that's at the top, then you can inject, always keeping that air bubble on top. Press slowly. And again, the air will be in between the rubber stopper and the oil. And the air will ensure that every single drop gets pushed out of the syringe. And again, don't worry about the air. It's a non-issue. So hopefully that'll save you guys some testosterone. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. That was a great and clear explanation.
Cool.